Welcome to an exploration of the theater movements that have happened after the realism era. I call these movements the isms of theater, and in a little bit you'll be able to know why. The essential tasks that we will be doing in this unit involve researching theater movement in the post-realism eras, taking that research and using it to present a visual overview of the research, where you'll teach the class about your theater movement. Then, after you present your research, you and two partners are going to create a short film in the style of the assigned movement. Now we're going to take a look at the objectives that we'll be covering. The top objectives are the Theater Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS. We are addressing 2F, 4A, and 4D. And we also at the bottom have the technology standards that we will be addressing, since we will be using an extensive amount of technology. Now we're going to go back to those tasks that we're talking about. The first task that I'm going to have you do is research a theater movement in a group. These are going to be hyperlinked to this document. I have created a preliminary starting point for your research in this shared Google Doc that you have access to. So when you get your assigned theater movement, you will open up the doc. You will look for your movement. If you need to look, there should be a table of contents feature. I have the document outlined so that it will take you to whichever ism you have been assigned to. So let's say you have been assigned to realism, as I'm going to show you an exemplar of realism. But I will show you also how to use the outline. If you just click on whichever ism you would like to go to, you can click on the title on the outline and it will show you the correct place to go. All right, we're going to go with realism. We're going to take a shallow dive into this, which will hopefully give you some information to inform a deeper dive on realism for completion of the project. So what I have given you in this shared document is the title of your ism, a theme statement of your ism, a little bit of the information about your ism called a manifesto, the background. This means all of the things that were happening socially and politically and even environmentally in your specific period. As we know, all of the theater movements, all of the isms are happening in relation to something that is going on in that particular time period. What I also like about this is I give you some images, some sights to see, some sounds, some perhaps skills that can help you act in those, and then some theatrical works. Now, all of this information comes from the book Style for Actors from Robert Barton, a wonderful resource for all actors looking to hone their skills. So you'll use that document to create a preliminary research plan. Then you're going to take a deeper dive into that theatrical movement in order to present a visual overview of your research to the class. Again, we are looking for you to teach us a little bit about your theatrical movement. This should help you to inform the different things that you would like to do for your short film, which we will discuss some interesting ideas that can happen with your short film. So I'm going to present an exemplar, which means an example of what is expected in a presentation. So this is a presentation on realism. I'm using realism as an example because all of your movements will come after realism, and all of your movements are a response to realism. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on realism. using my document for research from Robert Barton's Style for Actors, along with a deeper dive of realism. I have found that realism is everyday people in their environment. It's influenced by the psychology that has happened in that time period. Sigmund Freud made some wonderful strides in psychoanalysis, which prompted realism. And there was a focus on universal social and domestic issues. For the first time, the public, the middle class public and the upper middle class public, they all found themselves on stage. So a little bit of background, as I mentioned, Freud's work on psychoanalysis kind of helped contribute to the idea of realism. It inspired all sorts of writing, especially in dramatic writing, in the works of Heinrich Ibsen, a Norwegian playwright, and Anton Chekhov, who is a Russian playwright. And at first, realism was very startling for audiences. They were not used to a more representational style of acting. They were very used to the presentational overacting, for lack of a better word. But people liked seeing themselves on stage the more they got used to it. And because works were being written with psychoanalysis in mind and character motivations in mind, actors and acting teachers such as Stanislavski began catering to that particular type of dramatic writing. So what does realism look like? Well, as you can see in this picture, we've got some natural light. That's what realism looks like. It looks like, for lack of a better word, real. It's functional environment, an authentic environment. You might find much more box sets representing the interior of houses with realism, and it's relatable. I mean, you can even see that there are some imperfections in this picture, but those imperfections make you believe that it is a realistic location. What does it sound like? Well, there are logical sound effects, perhaps sounds of nature, maybe crickets if it's a nighttime scene, maybe birds if it's a morning scene. And then it's very time period appropriate. So if a play takes place in the 50s, you're going to find music that takes place in the 50s. And then you're going to find elements of realistic music that enhances the emotion and mood of the scenes that they are presenting. An example of realism is the Old Vic Theater's production of All My Sons from 2019, produced by National Theater at the Old Vic. And it featured Bill Pullman and Sally Field. As you can see, the picture is very realistic. You can see some of them are barefoot, some of them have shoes. The furniture is a mod podge of different things. You can see functional windows upstage. You can see a functional door. You can see natural lighting. So you can see more of the production on this link right there as well from the Old Vic Theater. And now it's your turn. So you have a Google Doc with all of the different isms. You're going to present a visual overview of that research that you've completed, and then you'll create a short film in the style of the assigned movement. And so now I want you guys using your shoulder partners to discuss what a short film would look like for realism. What would we want to consider if we were to make a short film on realism? What might we include? What are some of the visual elements, the sound elements that we can include? So I want you to brainstorm with your partners as I come around and assign you into groups, and you will then be able to research your Google Doc. Thank you very much.